Hello, this is Jay Mitchell, and we are back with another episode of the Libertarian Uncensored podcast, going over all the posts on the Libertarian Uncensored subreddit. Let's get right into it. So first we have Argentina will get next installment of bailout as IMF praises Malay's austerity policies from APnews.com by Ninja Lover, and they added, the praise makes a dramatic turnaround for the past 6 decades during which Argentine politicians showed little interest in enacting reforms stipulated as part of borrowing agreements. Previous left-leaning governments fall far short of IMF targets and relied on central bank money printing to finance treasury spending, pushing the country's IMF program launched in 2018 and refinanced in 2022 to a breaking point. And, I think that's good. It just goes to show you, Malaysia showing that economic libertarianism works, and it's not just a pipe dream, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have, I have been debanked by Bank of America. They are currently holding my funds hostage from Radix Verum on Twitter, and I posted that, and I said, scary stuff. I personally support freedom of association, but it seems that the big banks will debank anyone who goes against the narrative. I suspect that it will only get worse after the rise of central bank digital currencies. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then next we have, this is how Christian nationalists will ban quote-unquote pornography from Project 25 is theocracy.substack.com by Slayer991, and I said, porn is a lot like smoking. It's not good for you, but if you absolutely should be able to do it if you want to. As long as you're not hurting anyone else, I think you should be able to do whatever you want, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Gateway Pundit files for bankruptcy after collection conspiracy defamation lawsuits from NPR.org by Ninja Lover, and they added the Gateway Pundit also settled a lawsuit from a former official at voting technology company Dominion Voting Systems, which was targeted by election fraud conspiracy theories in 2020. And I said in response, sad it had to be them instead of one of the alphabet media outlets. And that's my thoughts on that issue. I don't really care for the Gateway Pundit, but, I definitely do think, if people want to listen to the Gateway Pundit, they should be able to. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have what was Joe saying about tariffs from Defiant L's on Twitter, and I posted that. And that was on May 14, 2024. President Biden tweeted, I just imposed a series of tariffs on goods made in China, 25% on steel and aluminum, 50% on semiconductors, 100% on EVs, and 50% on solar panels. China is determined to dominate these industries. And then on June 11th, 2019, he tweeted, as a candidate, Trump doesn't get the basics. He thinks his tariffs are being paid by China. Any freshman econ student could tell you that the American people are paying his tariffs. And I said in response, a politician going back on their word, whoever could have seen that coming. That's of course being a little sarcastic there. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have the metric system from Plasma 30. And they said this was a self-post, and they said, I was born and raised in the U.S. As soon as I learned about the metric system back in the 1970s, I immediately saw its superiority. But in the 70s, the metric system seemed inevitable. Ford actually commissioned a report on how we were going to do it, and Carter seemed keen on it. Then Reagan came along, and the dream died. Now it's 2024, and it's not going to happen. Sure, cars have nuts and bolts and metric, and we buy 2-liter souls, but all speed limits are in mph. The NWS still gives us the lever using imperial measurements. We buy gas in gallons, and the scale at the grocery store is in pounds and ounces. On the one hand, I'm opposed to have the government forcing people to do anything, so adult me doesn't want to force the U.S. to switch. But on the other hand, I realize the only reason we're not 100% metric is because the government forces us into imperial measures. And using the democratic process to let the U.S. vote on whether we should switch would lead to failure because people are scared of change and they don't even understand. I've seen quotes people saying things as stupid as, I want my 2x4 to be 2x4. What size will the lumber be if we have to cut it in cm? I got news for you. A 2x4 hasn't been 2x4 in a long time. So part of me wants the U.S. to just switch, and part of me feels like that's government overstepping, but I also feel that the government is forcing us to stay imperial. I think the best solution would be to force government to use both. All highway signs should have both measurements on them, though every person should use both, some kind of way to ease us into it. What's funny is that all official U.S. units are defined by metric system. The official U.S. definition of 1 yard is 0.19144 meters. And I said in response, the libertarian position is that each person should use whatever system they feel like. And that's my fault on that issue. If you want to use the metric system, you should be able to use the metric system. If you want to use the imperial system, you should be able to use the imperial system. If you want to use another system, I think you should be able to use another system. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have, is accelerationism the new terrorist threat from Clorox? And that's a post from CFR.org. A year after January 6th is a declaration of the new terrorism threat, and I said, Reddit, the outgroup are terrorists, the in-group are freedom fighters. You know, Reddit will always say, oh, any violence the outgroup does is wrong, but any violence the in-group does is completely justified. And that's not my fault on that issue. You know, it really just depends on whether you're in-group or outgroup these days, I think, and that's my thoughts on that. Then we have Ben Carson calls for making divorce harder from NBCNews.com by Clorox, and I said, we need the state out of the marriage business entirely. And that's my thought on that issue. You know, I don't think we should have marriage licenses, or indeed, I don't think you should need to ask government permission for anything. And that's how I feel about that. Then we have raw milk sales skyrocket as idiots believe drinking bird flu will give them immunity from Gizmodo.com by Paton13. And they added, yes, it's only tangentially libertarian, as it goes back to being able to get consumer products without government oversight, but raw milk and immunization have been hot topics here before, so I thought it'd be useful to see a crossover between them. I said, I personally wouldn't drink raw milk for that reason, but people should be able to put whatever they feel like into their bodies. And, you know, it might make them sick, but, you know, ultimately, I think the same thing about cigarettes. You know, if you want to smoke cigarettes, that might make you sick, but you should absolutely be able to do so if you feel like it, and that's my thoughts there. Then we have, hey Michael, do you ever miss New York from Michael Malice on Twitter? And I posted that. And that was him sharing a screenshot of a tweet from Breaking News after news trending. NY just announced a historic $2.3 billion tax-funded grant to fix up JFK Airport signed off by Governor Hochul. It's exclusively for non-white or woman-owned businesses. This is for us and made by us. Meanwhile, NBC, and they also quote tweeted NBC New York, who tweeted, New York City Mayor Eric Adams suggested immigrants is a possible solution to the city's lifeguard shortage because they are quote-unquote excellent swimmers. And I said, I'm so glad I don't live in a Democrat-run city, you know. The Democrats and Republicans are pretty much a uniparty. The Republicans are controlled opposition with only a few exceptions like Thomas Massey. But with that being said, the Democrat-run cities don't seem to be too good right now. You know, the rural GOP areas also have some problems, I think, but that's why I'm personally glad I live in the suburbs, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Vote Biden. That's the point of the article, the only point. No need to read it, from Glenn Greenwald on Twitter. And that was him quote tweeting Bernie Sanders, an article he shared from The Guardian. We're at a pivotal moment in American history. We cannot retreat from Bernie Sanders. And I said, I miss anti-establishment 2016 Bernie. Now Bernie's up Biden's ass, and I don't think that's very you know, libertarian. You know, I think I miss when Bernie was challenging the status quo, being against the establishment. Ever since Biden got elected, you know, he's just been an establishment puppet, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have the iron law of woke projection never misses from Defiant L's on Twitter, and I posted that. And that was a screenshot, post from Mark My Words from Todd Bertrand 12345. Mark my words, Trump will go down in history as a total degenerate pedo. And then she shares a police release from 2005. From media release June 8, 2005, to applied to reform female genital mutilation sentence to federal prison. Los Angeles, California, 2 Sullivan, California residents who agreed to perform female genital mutilation on 2 minors were sentenced this afternoon to federal prison terms after pleading guilty to conspiracy, child pornography, and obscenity charges. Todd Cameron Bertrand, 33, of Canyon County, was sentenced to 5 years in federal prison. His girlfriend, Robin Falkenberry, 25, also of Canyon County, was sentenced to 2 years in prison. And that was I guess that was the same Todd Bertrand who did the Reddit post. And I said, Reddit is full of pedos. It might as well be Preddit. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have, I haven't seen a single poll on an X where Vivek Ramaswamy isn't the first pick to be Trump's VP by a large margin. Do you think he will be the pick from being libertarian on Twitter? And I posted that, and I said, no, I think it will be Tim Scott. Trump needs more establishment name to balance the ticket and someone to use as a counter against claims of racism, and Scott provides those. And that's my thought on that issue. Then we have, I'll add that the entire Bill of Rights is anti-democratic. That's literally its function. It tells Congress and the President what can't be voted on or be implemented regardless of popular will, from Justin Amash on Twitter. And I posted that, and I said, just because something is democratic does not make it an inherent good. People forget that these days. Libertarianism, by contrast, isn't about inherent good. It's about inherent individual freedom. And that's my thoughts on that issue. And then we have the Party of Freedom wants to ban mask wearing for health reasons in North Carolina, from CharlotteObserver.com by Clorox. And I said, if you want to wear a mask, you should be able to wear whatever you want to. If you don't want to wear anything, you know, I personally think as a libertarian, I don't think you should be forced to wear anything. And that's my thoughts on that issue. and I'll check see if there's anything new. Looks like there isn't, so I think we're gonna wrap it up there. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.